A woman runs for her life as she gets chased by a crazed sorcerer. Suddenly, an ancient warrior breaks out of a statue and saves her. The woman is terrified, but the warrior insists they are actually related. The story begins in an otherwise peaceful village. An angry group gathers around the Mo family house. The lady of the house, Sasha, is informed of the commotion. The people want compensation because her brother-in-law, Xiaoyu, has destroyed their property and has been missing since the morning. Sasha addresses all the villagers and compensates them for their losses. Meanwhile, we meet Xiaoyu as he hunts a wild beast. He manages to knock down the beast, but it suddenly awakens its true powers and charges at him. An intense battle follows as Xiaoyu is seemingly dominated, but he manages to hold off the beast with his foot. Things are looking tough, but then a mysterious man appears, grabbing the beast from behind and choking it to death. Instead of being thankful, Xiaoyu cries because he had been hunting the beast for months. He demands compensation from the man, but the man gets angry, thinking it's a scam. However, the man's uncle appears and pays Xiaoyu. The old man tells him that they are looking for his brother Mo Taiyi, but Xiaoyu pretends not to know him. He grabs the beast and leaves. The man is surprised at Xiaoyu's strength, and the old man thinks Xiaoyu must be a part of the Mo clan. When Xiaoyu comes home at night, Sasha rubs his wounds with ointment. She tells him that the beast was dangerous, but he says that it was a vital ingredient for her medicine. Later, he tells Sasha about the two people that were looking for his brother. Sasha remembers that Taiyi sent them a letter and she gives it to him. Xiaoyu puts the letter into a projector-like device. His brother appears, telling him he is headed to the capital to help the king. He tells Xiaoyu to study hard and protect the Mo house while he is gone. As Xiaoyu lies down to sleep, we jump to modern day and meet a girl named Shin. As she wakes up to a phone call, she learns that there has been a discovery about the Quen dynasty. So she quickly gets ready and heads out. She meets with her senpai, Ling, and he takes her to see the discovery of an ancient tomb. Back in the original timeline, a soldier comes to take Sasha away to the capital. They seem to have suspicious intentions, but Sasha chooses not to make a scene and goes with them. Xiaoyu can't accept this and chases after them. He pounces upon the soldiers, engaging in an intense battle and defeats most of them, but is quickly overpowered by the captain and gets captured. Sasha begs the captain for mercy, and Xiaoyu pleads to come along to the capital. The captain learns that Xiaoyu is also from the Mo family, and decides to bring him along. From a mountain top, the mysterious man and his uncle watch on, lamenting that they arrived too late to help. The next day, Xiaoyu and Sasha witness a horrible sight of slaves being treated brutally and forced to work for the Quen Empire. We meet the king and ruler of the Quen Empire. He meets with his ministers, and they report to him that they have successfully refined his longevity elixir. The king gets excited and demands for it immediately, so he can live for another 1,000 years. However, the king quickly spots that the elixir is a fake, and he orders for a brutal killing of all the ministers. That's when we notice Xiaoyu's brother Taiyi, who is actually the one responsible for the elixir. Xiaoyu and Sasha are brought into the palace, and Xiaoyu is overjoyed to see his brother. But he quickly realizes that Taiyi is being held as a slave. Taiyi begs the king to release his family, but the king tells him he will have his wife test his elixir. Taiyi begs to be the one to take it, but the king still needs him for building his tomb. Sasha accepts her fate, but Xiaoyu knocks her out and begs to be the one to test the elixir. The king agrees and orders Taiyi to seal his brother as a terracotta statue after he takes the elixir. We jump back to Shen and Ling, looking around the excavation site. They are drawn to a massive armor, admiring its unique craftsmanship. When Shin looks at the helmet, its eyes flash, and Ling disappears. Shin tries to look for him, but the light goes out and she gets approached by a hooded man. The man is also drawn to the armor, introducing himself as Kiran, a treasure hunter. Shin can tell he is shady, so she distracts him and kicks him in the nuts. She takes the armor's helmet and tries to escape, but finds Ling knocked out. She tries to hide and calls for help, but she can't get through, and is found by Kiran's monkey. Kiran attacks with his magic, destroying statues, while Shin runs away. He corners her and demands the helmet, but Shin throws it away instead. Kiran is outraged and tries to finish her off, but that's when Xiaoyu suddenly awakens, grabbing Kiran's arm and blowing him away. When Xiaoyu sees Shin, he is reminded of Sasha. He approaches her, but she is terrified and begs him to stay away. Kiran gets back up, excited that the legends of the longevity elixir were true. He is determined to test if Xiaoyu is immortal. jumping at him with his magic, but Xiaoyu is able to withstand the attack. They are interrupted when some cops arrive at the scene. Kieran's monkey quickly grabs the helmet and they leave. Shin tries to distance herself from Xiaoyu, but he holds her hand, believing she is Sasha. They get taken to the station, and Shin tries to explain herself to the cops, but they believe that Xiaoyu is actually her uncle. Once they are done with the formalities and Xiaoyu devours a massive meal, he tries to talk to Shin, but she simply ignores him and runs off into the crowd. Xiaoyu chases after her and begs her to listen to him. Shin tries to escape in a cab, but Xiaoyu accidentally rips off the door, leading to a crash. This only leads to another visit to the cops, and this time, Xiaoyu is suspected of being in a suspicious relationship with Shin. A lawyer arrives and bails Shin out, but she doesn't like that her dad has sent help for her. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu gets put in a cell, where he has an encounter with a bunch of mean goons, who try to show him who's boss. This turns out to be a big mistake, as Xiaoyu beats all of them with ease. They apologize to him excessively. Xiaoyu tells them that he must find Sasha, but they tell him he is locked up. Xiaoyu shows off his magic, much to everyone's surprise, and escapes from the cell, while the other prisoners are held accountable. Xiaoyu looks all around the city, and when he finally meets Shin, he falls into her arms and passes out from fatigue. When he wakes up, he finds himself in Shin's apartment. After a brief search, he finally finds her inside the bathroom, but it leads to an awkward encounter. Of course, this causes Shin to lose her mind, and she scolds Xiaoyu for peeping on her. She explains that she isn't Sasha, and Xiaoyu says he will not bother her anymore. After, Shin gives him a new outfit and tells him to call her Shin instead. She tells him not to follow her anymore, and they go their separate ways. Shin goes to work as an actress, and the director tells her that her stunt double couldn't make it, so she will have to do the action scene herself. She fights off some assassins, but things get tricky when the safety rope breaks and Shin falls off the roof. Luckily, Xiaoyu appears and saves her. He wonders why she was getting attacked, and she tries to explain that it is all fake. The director gets mad at the disturbance, but after reviewing the footage, asks if Xiaoyu wants to be a star. Now that the disaster has been averted, Shin decides that she will help Xiaoyu find a place to sleep. However, all he gets is the roof of her building, and the constant sounds of the city keep him up at night. Suddenly, Xiaoyu senses Shin in danger and rushes to the scene. He comes across an army of rats that try to take him down, but he decides to put things to an end by unleashing some of his fire magic. The blast kills the rats, and Xiaoyu finds a note from Kieran, who asks to meet him if he wants to save Shin. Shin wakes up next to some rats and Kieran shows up once more to ridicule her. He has his monkey shut her up with a banana, after which he thanks her for allowing everything to happen the way it did. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu sneaks past the cops and eventually makes his way to Shin. Kieran is glad that his plan has come into effect, so he goes on a lengthy rant about the powers of Xiaoyu's warrior clan. However, Xiaoyu gets bored and immediately knocks down his opponent without even giving it a second thought. However, Kieran unleashes his monkey, which transforms into a giant beast in order to combat Xiaoyu. The monkey uses his fist moves to land the first blow, but Xiaoyu keeps his cool and holds off his second attack. Xiaoyu unleashes his light magic and strikes the monkey one hit after another in an intense barrage. He begins to break through the monkey's mask, but Kieran plays dirty and stabs him in the back to put him at a disadvantage. He then unleashes an army of rats by manifesting them from the monkey's body. All hope seems lost for Xiaoyu as he gets trapped by the rats. As Kieran gloats, his flute is suddenly destroyed as Xiaoyu shoots through the rats. He breaks free from the prison and sends Kieran flying away. News breaks out the next morning where everyone learns about Kieran and his sinister plans. Kieran is taken in by the cops and the head inspector gives a briefing over the damage caused to the building, which was a cultural heritage site. Shin watches the news on her phone, and Xiaoyu interrupts her. He notices the report, but Shin tells him not to tell anyone about what happened. Shin gets called by the director and Xiaoyu thinks back to the events of the previous night, where Kieran had warned them about the secret treasure hunter organization which is keeping a close watch on them. Xiaoyu is visibly worried about this, and he accidentally walks in on a girl named Ari, who is changing her clothes. She lets out a scream and Xiaoyu panics, accidentally taking photos. As Shin goes to the director, he is busy with the lead actress named Sue. Despite his best efforts, she says that he will hear from her lawyer and walks away. After this, the director offers the role of lead actress to Shin and takes her to meet the producer. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu tries to apologize to Ari, but gets slapped across his face for being a creep. He tries to express his innocence to a new buddy, but he tells him that he's already messed up his chance. They end up in the prop room, filled with all kinds of swords, and it makes Xiaoyu's eyes shine with excitement. Shin is convinced by the director and producer, and after she signs the contract, the producer reveals that her new manager is actually her own father, Hong. Shin is absolutely against this, but it's too late because she already signed the contract. Sue is on the phone, and we learn that she was recast because of Shin's father. Ari brings Sue her costume but ends up dropping it, and Sue insults her in front of everyone. Xiaoyu witnesses this and wants to offer support, but then Shin comes storming through and grabs his hand, thus awakening her father's alert system. Hong immediately attacks Xiaoyu and demands to know his relationship with his daughter. However, Xiaoyu is able to take his punch, and it impresses him, who also seems to remind him of the captain he fought. Later, Xiaoyu thinks back to some pleasant memories with his brother, but then he runs into Ari, who is being harassed by some goons. It turns out that her mother owes a huge debt to a mafia boss, so the men are trying to extort her. Things are about to get messy, but Xiaoyu steps in at the right time and ridicules the men by taking off their pants with a simple trick. He asks Ari if she's alright, but she runs away filled with tears. She bumps into a seemingly kind man who takes her out to dinner, but things take a dark turn when he spikes her drink. Ari wakes up inside a hotel room and we learn that the man dining with her is actually the mafia boss. He tries to have his way with her, but she picks up a weapon and beats him down until he dies. Ari can't believe that she just killed someone, so she decides to end it all, but then a mysterious force holds her midair. This force calls himself the producer, and he seems to be drawn towards Ari's intense hatred. He offers to give Ari everything she desires, and then the failed actress wakes up in the body of Sue, much to her surprise. Now, we see an assassin from the treasure hunter company, who has broken Kieran out of prison and brings him along to meet their boss. Once he's here, Kieran reveals that Xiaoyu had broken out of a statue. This prompts the boss to order further investigation as he believes that there are tons of treasures to be had if they can get to Xiaoyu. The next day, Xiaoyu and Shin visit the filming set, but are surprised to find a lot of workers present. Hong breaks up the couple once again but is immediately told off by his daughter for his excessive behavior. That's when Ari bumps into Xiaoyu and thanks him for saving her the previous night. However, he doesn't recognize her as she is currently in Sue's body. A flashback shows Ari trying to come to terms with her new life. Back in the present, the playboy, Damien, shows up and tries to flirt with Ari, but he creeps her out and she hides behind Xiaoyu, much to his confusion. Damien tries to win her favor with some money, but Hong arrives and shamelessly takes the check away. He claims that Damien's family hasn't repaid loans to him, so the two men show off their wealth at each other, much to Shin's dismay. Things get interesting when Hong's horse completely wrecks Damien's car. After that, the director takes Shin to the venue for the next shoot, which is supposed to recreate the battlefield from Xiaoyu's era. As Shin goes through her script, Xiaoyu serves her some tea, and they try to understand how he came to be alive in this time. Her senpai Ling visits her, and is shocked to see the ancient warrior in front of him. However, he seems to have knowledge about Xiaoyu's family history, so he goes on to explain how Xiaoyu's entire village was slaughtered. A meteor fell in the village, and the king saw it as a bad omen and ordered the village to be wiped out. After that, the capital was attacked by the mysterious man that had once saved Xiaoyu. Tai Yi is by his side, and glad to see the end of the tyrannical king's reign. Next, the man takes his men to raid the king's tomb, despite Tai Yi's warning. When they open the tomb, they are attacked by a horde of undead zombies. An intense battle follows, but the beasts are eventually killed off by an arrow assault. Before they can enter, a flame in the form of a phoenix bursts out. The men see this as a bad sign, and the man decides to reseal the tomb. Back to the present, Xiaoyu breaks down after learning that all his loved ones are dead and gone. Ling motivates him to uncover the truth behind his family's demise. We then see Xiaoyu in the middle of a shoot. It seems to be reminiscent of the actual war. When they have a break, Ari tries to chat him up. Shin is seemingly jealous of the couple, and even Damien spies from the bushes and plans something sinister. However, Hong shows up and shoos him away. Hong gets a suspicious call and rushes to meet a blonde detective working with the treasure hunters. He shows Hong some pictures of Kieran, but mentions that the treasure hunter company has gotten involved. We learn that Hong used to be a part of the company, and warns the detective about coming after his daughter again. The detective turns the tables when he mentions Hong's son who went missing. It angers Hong to the point where he physically threatens him, but things eventually cool off. Elsewhere, Damien is still upset with Hong for humiliating him. That's when one of his subordinates suggests using a giant fighter in order to establish some dominance. Later, Shin tries to look for Xiaoyu but is unable to find him. But she does manage to find some notes he's been collecting. She learns that Xiaoyu is studying the remains of his tomb so that he can learn more about his family's past. Shin visits the tomb at night and is given a brief scare by a wandering cat. Suddenly, Hong shows up and drags her away, telling her to leave immediately. Shin bumps into Ling, who is carrying information on Xiaoyu, and she demands answers, so Hong explains how she lost her older brother years ago when he was dragged through a mysterious portal. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu searches the tomb and comes across a marking. In a flashback with Sasha, he is unable to find his brother's book, but Sasha shows him his brother's marking. Ari gets a call from Damien, and he tells her to come back to him, or else he will go after Xiaoyu. This seemingly triggers the producer to possess her body. Back with Shin, she is shocked to learn that Xiaoyu is the key to finding her missing brother. She gets mad at her father for keeping such a big secret. Hong says he kept it from her for her own protection, but she doesn't believe him. They are interrupted as an assassin from the company appears. Hong quickly sends Shin away with Ling and engages in a fierce battle with the assassin. Hong lands a few impressive blows at first, but his dominance doesn't last for long as he is tackled to the ground. Hong uses his scarf and regains his advantage, blowing the man away. As they continue to fight, Shin thinks of her memory with Xiaoyu, where he swears to protect her with his life. She decides that she must find him if she is to learn the truth. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu continues to analyze the tomb and finds a bunch of symbols surrounding the spot where the suit of armor used to stand. Suddenly, he meets the detective who introduces himself as Li. He chats with Xiaoyu, pretending to be a tourist looking for treasure, and Xiaoyu even offers to join forces with him. But Li declines and leaves to explore other areas. Suddenly, we are taken to the movie set, where Damien shows up with his men and interrupts the shoot. They get violent and start destroying the equipment. The director threatens to call the cops, but Damien appears behind him. The director gets nervous, and Damien demands information on Xiaoyu. The director panics and spills everything he knows, including Xiaoyu being an ancient warrior. Suddenly, Ari appears and tries to calm the situation. Damien tries to act cool with her by making fun of Xiaoyu, but Ari eventually loses her temper and slaps Damien without realizing it, so he calls for his men to restrain her. Back to the ruins, Shin calls out for Xiaoyu as she searches for him. She panics as she sees the sorcerer Kirin on her live feed. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu uses his powers and lights up the symbols surrounding the platform. Xiaoyu is surrounded by zodiac symbols, and a light strikes the center platform. The stone lifts itself up and turns into a pillar. Meanwhile, Ling grabs Shin, telling her it's dangerous, but she is mad at him for working with her father. Ling explains that the treasure hunters are after Xiaoyu, and her father invested in her filming so he could have his men protect her. Suddenly, Ling is blown away as Kirin appears. He threatens to capture Shin again, but his magic is stopped as Li arrives in a rather cheerful fashion. Kirin is visibly annoyed, and Li tells him he was paid off by Hong. There is an earthquake, and Shin takes her opportunity to run away. Li comments that Xiaoyu must have found the treasure. Kirin unleashes his army of rats at him, but Li folds a paper cat, which easily handles the rats. As Xiaoyu examines the pillar, he finds an opening that matches the amulet his brother had once given him. He puts it in, and the pillar lights up. Meanwhile outside, Hong is dominating the assassin, but the man suddenly transforms into a giant werewolf. As they clash, a light bursts out, and Hong suddenly sees images of his son. Everyone sees soldiers that run by, and Xiaoyu sees the mysterious man, along with his brother. Xiaoyu turns into light, and everyone seems to be transported away. There is a huge beam of light, and as Ari and Damien look toward it, they are also transported away, with only Ling who appears to have been left behind. In another world, we see the Lord, Lu Jin, welcoming some noble guests to his humble abode. As he greets them with open arms, the portal suddenly opens up outside his tent, and Xiaoyu makes his entrance. Back in the real world, the director is considered to be the culprit behind the disappearance of Damien and Ari, so Damien's men go after him. When Shin awakens in the other world, she finds herself being cheered on by soldiers as she is recognized as a general, but she is confused and has no idea what is going on. Back to Xiaoyu, He is considered to be an intruder at first, but then one of the guests seems to be interested in his talents, so he convinces Lu Jin to take him as a servant. We see a meeting between General Zong and his advisor. They don't trust Lu Jin, thinking he wants to become king himself, so they plan an ambush to get rid of him. The following day, Lu Jin goes to meet with Zong, and Xiaoyu notices him to be the mysterious man. Lu Jin offers them gifts, and swears his loyalty to Zong. Xiaoyu heads out of the tent for a moment, and Shin calls out to him. They are glad to find each other, but are both still confused. Xiaoyu tells her about Lu Jin and Zong. Having read the play about this, Shin realizes they are about to witness the event where Lu Jin is killed. Shin is called to the tent, and she is shocked to find that the sword dancer is actually her father. He is overjoyed to be reunited with her, but Shin ends up smacking him down for being weird. Things keep getting weird as we also see Lee in this timeline. He causes a scene with Shin, and Zong signals his troops to attack. Suddenly, the lights start to flash and they are transported once again. Xiaoyu is transported back in time. However, this time he is the noble being welcomed by Lu Jin. Lu Jin proposes a marriage between their houses, but when his daughter comes out, it turns out to be Ari. Although Xiaoyu still recognizes her as Su, they are happy to find each other, much to Lu Jin's confusion. Meanwhile, Kirin and the werewolf find themselves in Zong's army, preparing their ambush on Lu Jin. Kirin gets punished for talking, and tries to use his magic powers, but it doesn't work, and he continues to get beaten. Hong gets defeated by Zong, and this time Shin is his advisor. Shin tries to suggest resolving things peacefully, but Zong insists on killing Lu Jin. The next day, everything starts to repeat itself. Shin tries to communicate with Xiaoyu from across the room, but he doesn't quite get it. Lu Jin arrives, and we learn that Lu Jin and Zong had worked together to take down the Qin Empire. Shin tries to communicate with Xiaoyu about the plot to kill Lu Jin, but Xiaoyu remains clueless. The soldiers are waiting outside for the ambush signal, but Kirin spots Xiaoyu and rushes in. However, Hong also shows up and loses his mind upon seeing Kirin, so he brutally attacks him to get revenge for what he had done to Shin. The other soldiers rush in, and Xiaoyu saves Lu Jin, but this sudden turn of events angers Zong, so he unleashes a powerful slash that kills Lu Jin and triggers the reincarnation once more. We are now brought to the present world where Ling is trying to figure out what happened to everyone. That's when he meets the boss of the treasure hunter company. The boss explains that the others are stuck in a time loop that restarts every time Lu Jin is murdered. We see a number of different attempts, as they all switch roles every time they reset. After countless attempts, they find one time where Lu Jin is played by Hong. They get to have a moment alone, and Hong blames Xiaoyu for being the reason they are all stuck here. Xiaoyu mentions how he put his amulet into the pillar, and they think that might be the key to escaping. Shin tries to understand how they are all changing roles, and she fears that her father might actually die this time because he is Lu Jin. Hong cries with joy, seeing how concerned she is for him, but she instantly regrets it. As the trio tries to figure out a solution, Ari shows up as the general, much to their relief. The next day, Xiaoyu tries to find a way to keep Hong safe by setting a trap for Zong's soldiers, but Li appears, and tells him that traps won't be enough to save Hong. Xiaoyu is desperate and asks for his help. The meeting goes on as usual, as Hong meets with Zong. Ari waits outside with the army, and Xiaoyu fights with the werewolf, in an exhibition match. Xiaoyu gets worried when he sees Zong get up, but he ends up stopping the fight that was getting out of hand. Suddenly, Ari enters with a shield, and Li approaches and gives Xiaoyu a signal. A chaotic fight follows, as Xiaoyu and Li try to attack Zong, but are both stopped. The soldiers come rushing in and surround Hong. Things are looking bad, but Shin arrives just in time on a horse. They get surrounded, but the werewolf helps clear their way using the shield. They get outside and try to escape, but the soldiers block the gate. There is an explosion in the tent, and Zong calls for his bow. He draws his bow and shoots at Hong, but Xiaoyu jumps in the way, sacrificing himself. But it goes right through him and continues toward Hong. However, Xiaoyu's amulet is broken, and they disappear before the arrow hits. Xiaoyu is taken to a mysterious area where he is surrounded by broken jades. He sees one with his brother, and when he touches it, he is transported to another timeline, where he watches his brother meet with Zong. His brother tries to help Zong overthrow the Qin Empire, because he is sick of serving the tyrannical king who slaughtered his village. Xiaoyu is then transported to witness a horrific sight, as thousands of Qin soldiers are burnt and killed by Zong's men. Xiaoyu's brother continues to support Zong, and Zong requests that he make him the ultimate armor, which we see him putting on. Meanwhile, Hong wakes up next to the city, which means that he has managed to escape back to the real world. Xiaoyu finds himself on a battlefield as one of the soldiers against Zong, while his friends are acting as advisors for Lu Jin. Shin is confused about why the assassins are with them, but Li convinces them that they need to work together to get free. He suggests that they are trapped in the consciousness of Zong, and they won't be able to leave until they defeat him. They suggest to Lu Jin to launch a 5-way attack on Zong, but for this to work, they need the support of a General Han. Xiaoyu is actually a soldier in General Han's army, and he sees a giant tower, which the general sits at the top of. Shin and Ari decide to go to General Han to seek his support, but when they meet him, it turns out Damien is playing the role of General Han. This is bad news for Shin and Ari as Damien immediately puts the girls in prison. Damien meets with Shin and tells her that he prefers to stay in this world and will hand her over to Zong to win his favor. Damien travels on his tower to meet with Zong to make a deal, but he gets betrayed, and Zong's men suddenly charge at him. They are taken by surprise, but Damien tries to fight back with some archers in his tower. Xiaoyu is on the ground, in the middle of the chaos. Eventually, the tower is damaged and begins to fall. Zong comes charging through, and completely destroys the tower. Damien jumps off with a parachute, while Shin falls off and Xiaoyu sees her. But Shin gets caught by Zong, who takes her away. Damien lands in front of Xiaoyu, and he takes him back to the barracks where Ari punishes him for being stupid. Damien still doesn't want to help them, but after Xiaoyu threatens him, he vows to help them against Zong. Back in the real world, Hong meets with the treasure hunter boss and offers him anything, as long as he can help save Shin. The boss reveals the ancient helmet, which he says will let them connect to the other world and unlock everyone's power. Back in the other world, Zong recognizes Shin, saying that they met long ago when she picked up his helmet, and Shin realizes that he is alive. Li plans with Xiaoyu and the others to launch an attack on Zong from all sides. They start by getting their men to sing and demoralize Zong's troops. Zong sends his men to attack them, but this ends up being a trap set by Lu Jin, who sends another squad of men to flank Zong's army. Meanwhile, one of Hong's men puts on the helmet to connect to the other world, while Zong joins the battle with Shin, saying that he is looking for Xiaoyu. Zong charges through and is an unstoppable force. Despite all the soldiers and traps, he breaks right through. There is no one who can stand up to him, and he comes before Kirin, who manages to stop his blade as his powers return. He becomes confident with his powers, but still gets blown away. The werewolf tries to stop him by transforming into his monster body, but even that is not enough, and he is savagely dominated. Xiaoyu can't stand this anymore, so he rushes at Zong to save Shin. Xiaoyu confronts Zong, but his sword is instantly shattered. Shin warns him that he is Zong's target. Xiaoyu jumps above and tries to fire his bow at Zong, but ends up getting sliced in half. However, this turns out to just be a paper illusion created by Li's magic. While Zong is distracted by the clone, Xiaoyu manages to rescue Shin. Ari and Damien send all their men at Zong, but they're all blown away, and Zong throws his spear at Xiaoyu. It barely misses them, but causes an explosion. This is too much for the helmet to handle, so Hong's man is unable to see what's going on anymore. Hong starts to worry as he fears that the worst is yet to come. The spear transports Xiaoyu and Shin to an unknown area where Zong also shows up from a gate. Zong explains that this is the prison he has been trapped in. Xiaoyu's brother grew to fear him, and when he created his armor, he designed it so that it would give him strength, but also ended up sealing his soul. Zong is after Xiaoyu's amulet, which he believes is the key for him to escape from his curse. Zong curses Xiaoyu's brother, which angers him, but he gets blown away because Zong is too strong. Xiaoyu keeps trying, but he is no match. Shin tries to help, but is smacked away. After which, Zong tells Xiaoyu that women have always come to his family's rescue. In a flashback, we see Sasha, who takes the blame for everything after Xiaoyu's brother has fled. Xiaoyu fights back once more, trying to catch Zong off guard with his bow, but Zong catches it and stabs Xiaoyu with the arrow. Zong claims the amulet from Xiaoyu, and shatters it to harness its power. They are surrounded by jade stones, and Zong can see the modern world. Pillars begin to emerge in the real world, and chaos is caused all over the timeline. The jades begin to merge, and more buildings emerge in the real world. The sky begins to move, and a portal appears. All hope seems lost, and Xiaoyu apologizes to Shin for putting her in danger. Zong is surprised Xiaoyu has risen once again, and Xiaoyu says that his brother taught him to never give up. Xiaoyu attacks Zong but is thrown away once more, so he starts attacking the jade stones instead. Xiaoyu keeps dodging the attacks and destroying the jades. Zong gets serious and ends up stabbing Xiaoyu. Zong is about to finish him off, but all the other heroes arrive and start breaking the jade stones one by one. To top it off, Xiaoyu awakens his inner powers and puts up a fight. As the jades keep getting destroyed, Zong loses his cool, summoning his spear, and stabs the jade, which travels through to another jade and seemingly kills Kirin as he turns to dust. Zong uses the jades to move around the battlefield, but Xiaoyu chases after him. The two fight in the jades, passing through different time periods and moving constantly between them, while Shin and the others make a run for the portal. Xiaoyu doesn't give up and keeps fighting Zong from within the jades, thus making Zong's soul grow weaker. The connection to the real world begins to weaken as Zong's consciousness begins to fade. He curses Xiaoyu's immortality and stabs him, intending to trap Xiaoyu with him in this world. After that, he tries to kill Shin, but Xiaoyu musters his strength to get back up and shoot an arrow at him. Zong is finally defeated, as a light bursts forth from him. The world starts to crumble, and Shin tries to help Xiaoyu. The others start getting through the portal, but Ari is focused on the light. Her eyes turn dark, and a darkness erupts from her. Xiaoyu realizes something is wrong with her, and rushes to the portal with Shin. When he looks back, he sees the shadowy figure. But that's where the story ends. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.